All right, Coach. So coming off kind of a tough loss last week, what did you guys see when you went and looked back at that film?
Yeah, I think tough's an understatement right there. I mean, I think the hardest thing as a coach and the hardest pill to swallow is like there's so many opportunities for us to kind of take over that game in the first half, and really, I mean, we had some great drives and turnovers, and the one interception down there, I think, on the 10-yard line on an early down, uncharacteristic of Drew. And I thought Drew actually made some phenomenal throws and phenomenal plays in this game throughout it. Just bad timing there, and then I think really you look at we got the ball on the 50 coming out of the 2-minute timeout in the first half, and from then on it's like, I mean, we just went down the drain, and I think collectively as the whole team we did. We throw the interception there. um, on the deep ball. Then we come out and we stop them, and they punt it back to us and the muff punt. But really, I mean, I just think from that 2-minute warning on, we just kind of lost our minds a little bit. We had communication errors, offensively, defensively. Obviously, the muff punt in a key situation that almost gives them 7 points. Then we come out and had a couple uncharacteristic drops back to back to back that threw us off offensively. Then we give up, a fumble for a touchdown. And I thought it just kind of steamrolled, and just we didn't have anybody step up in a key moment to kind of switch the tide back our way. I think we scored a couple touchdowns, but never did we ever gain momentum back. And so the good news is it's all correctable. I mean, there's a lot of self-inflicted wounds during that period. But yeah, I mean, against a team like that, obviously you gotta be able to play 4 quarters against a team like that, and I think we had them, probably 4 or 5 times in the first half, kind of on the ropes. We're going to take a couple score leads and getting into halftime, and and we weren't able to capitalize. So hats off to them; they were able to do it. We got to have a short memory. We got to bounce back. We got to get back to playing our brand of football. And obviously, that starts with a really good UTSA opponent coming in. I mean, somebody that I think is as well coached as anybody in this league. What Jeff's done there over the course of the last 5 or 6 seasons has been, nothing short of super impressive. They got a veteran quarterback. You kind of throw on the tape from this last week at Rice. I mean, I think they had 60 points in the third quarter at some point. And so yeah, I mean, we got to get back to playing our brand of football and all the things that we've done well throughout the season. Winning the field position battle, being good on third downs, being able to stop the run, be able to run the football, red zone. I think, being able to convert when we're down there, and then to be able to get stops. I mean, all those little details within the game itself and all that situational stuff. I mean, we gotta get back to doing well. And so yeah, I mean, we gotta have a short memory, just because I think this is a really good ball club coming here, and I think they're hungry. Looking at the way they played, I mean they played hard last week, and so I think this is a team that's hungry to prove how good they can be. And I think they have some veterans at the key spots. I think their linebackers are phenomenal. They're fast, they run, they hit, they're destructive, they create turnovers, they get tackles for loss, and then offensively, they just got experienced trigger man and a really good running back.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were going so well early in the season, and then you just have the one down game. Where are you guys at mentally as you move forward?
Yeah, I think we'll see. I think practice was really sharp today. I think there's a bunch of embarrassed people watching that tape on Sunday and Monday, and that includes our coaches. I think we weren't very good detail wise, just with small things. I mean just route concepts and spacing and different things that that you got to be good and sharp on, and there's so many things that just when you go back and you really study that tape, miss some protection stuff on some key downs there in the second half, and there's some stuff that we didn't communicate well on the back end defensively, and gave up some explosives. And so yeah, we got to clean a lot of that up. But I do think today and yesterday, I mean, I thought we had really good energy today, and we're getting to the point in the season now where we know who our guys are. and we got to be able to get those guys to the field healthy, and everybody's dealing with that during this point of the season. But it'll be huge for us to kind of get back, to playing our brand of football. But at the same time, I mean, I got to watch and limit some of the reps for some of our key players going forward.
Yeah, you mentioned health, and you did mention after the game that you're going to have to go chat with your team physician here to get a handle on where you guys were at with some of that. Do you have any idea of who's going to be available this game?
No, I mean we'll see. Hopefully, between our receivers that didn't finish the game. I mean, Wyatt, Cam, Miles, are all guys right now that are day to day right now. We'll figure out if they can go or not. And then on the defensive side of the ball, looks like I think Xavier Scott will be out again, which is a blow for us. He's playing so well for us. But yeah, we got to continue to get healthy, and that's the next man up. Obviously, I mean that's we're not the only team, and I think now, just with the limited roster size and all those things, I think you see some depth issues when some key players get hurt, and that's happening all over the country.
Coach, you mentioned post-game that this last Friday was kind of the first big game for a lot of your players. How much do you think that pressure and added environment kind of affected those uncharacteristic mistakes you mentioned?
Well, I mean, just for me personally, I got to say it affected them. I mean, I wouldn't be a very calculated or very smart answer if I said it didn't phase them at all, just because we did so many uncharacteristic things. I mean, when you look at the drops and even, I think, the first third down, where I think Drew fired a bullet in there to Trey and missed that one. And then I think, you look at the drop. It's by far the most drops we had, by far the most turnovers we had, by far the most just busts we had. So I'd say, collectively that it affected us in a big way.
Absolutely. And then, as a former player, how do those big games, that experience playing in those environments kind of help you, learn from that lesson and hopefully have a different result next time?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not playing anymore, and so try to find a way to get these guys ready to roll. And I think, and it wasn't too bad. I mean, I think, the quarterback, made some phenomenal throws on the run. Put some balls in some places in tight coverage that I thought was really, really good. I thought Wyatt Young really stepped up and was phenomenal in the game. I think there were some bright spots in there. That I think that, we had some key contributors that did some really nice things for us. Colin Lewis is a guy that comes to mind that continues every game, when he's played. I mean, he just keeps making plays. He get better every week. He can play multiple coverage, play some man with him. He's a good zone guy. And so I think, Sadiq is a guy up front, nose tackle, that I think, since June's been out, I think he stepped into that role really nicely and has done some great things for us. And so it's not like everybody just played horrendous in the game. And there's some bright spots in it and some guys that did some really nice things. But yeah, overall, I think obviously we saw the results and we got to improve on it.
Yeah. I imagine you meant holistically when you said that you want to see someone step up and cause a different result. But is there a position group that you have in mind that you think could really impact this next game if they change dramatically?
No, I don't think so. I think we took turns of creating mistakes. I think we took turns of every position had their kind of time to shine in a bad way, and so. Yeah, I don't think it's specifically one, and that was kind of the thing why it kept rolling, in my opinion. I think, this is in a key game like that. I mean, you need all 11 to be locked in and doing their job. When you're playing a tempo team like that on the defensive side, I mean, you bust one run fit, and then these, little 4 and 5 yard runs start turning into 15, 16, 17-yard runs, and then they're able to pop a couple late. Offensively, I thought, especially second half, we had some communication errors up front where, we just don't block an interior D lineman in key situations. And so, like, those are the things. And then, so then you talk about drops, then you talk about getting beat on double moves. And so, like, no, I wouldn't say one position. I think it'd be the whole team.
And looking at that UTSA team, you mentioned that big win over Rice, obviously. It's probably the most dominant win of the season. Just what do you think went so differently for them?
I mean, you turn it on, and just as a coach, I think when you start really buzzing through some tape early in the week, you just notice how hard they played. I think, that they went out there, they were aggressive, I think offensively and defensively. I think the quarterback did a nice job getting the ball down the field early, creating some explosive plays for them. And they're able to establish some run game in there. They created, a couple big turnovers. Had a couple special teams play. So I thought, for them, you turn on, you could just tell that, they were playing some inspired football.
I noticed on the depth chart, Jaden Beck's is not listed. He was listed at the beginning of the year. Is that just he's just been surpassed by all these other guys, or is there something else that is internal in the
Yeah, and we'll figure out whether, he's a kid that redshirts or not. But, when you look at the depth chart and feel like, with Caleb and McKenzie and now Kiefer back healthy, will kind of be the three guys, main core guys that you see there toting the rock for us.
Is there an added ambition to win this UTSA game, not just because you come off a bad loss, but it's just because of the implications this kind of game has, not just in the season, but in recruiting and anything else in between college football?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, the fact that they've gotten after us the last 2 years, too, since I've been here, I think all those things play into it. And so, this is never, a Coach Traylor team is never one to be taken lightly. And so, what he's been able to do there over the course and build it up the way he has, I think that these guys got all of our respect and all of our attention right now.
Is the way that Coach Traylor's kind of built up that program something that you've kind of looked at and wanted to mirror his success in a way?
Yeah, I just think anytime, coming in and being able to win those conference championships early in CUSA and then, I think naturally everybody that jumped in to the American had a transition period, and I think that's natural anytime. I think that, obviously this conference, I think you're playing better talent week in, week out than what you were playing in CUSA. And now that you've added rev share into it and you got these, different market values on the teams right now, I think you're just playing a better athlete. I think we saw that with South Florida this last week. I'm not somebody that ever sits up here and complains about what we don't have. It's my job to continue to grow that and get it to a place where we want it to be, which we're making strides every single day on that. But at the same time, I think any of these newbies in the American would tell you, hey, it's a little bit different week in, week out. And then I think you throw, the academies and how well Navy and Army have played these last couple years, and it throws a whole wrinkle in kind of what you have to prepare for. And so I think everybody's kind of still figuring out this era and trying to continue to raise the floor in your programs.
And Henry, obviously, he's fourth in the country in rushing yards. How important is it to just be able to stop him, but also contain McCown, who's thrown for 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, and he's been a very vital part of this offense.
Yeah, I think, just what you see on tape with McCown, in my opinion, I think he's an accurate passer. Obviously can push the ball down the field and has done some nice things, but I think he's sneaky athletic too. I think he'll hurt you with your legs and gets out and scrambles and does some things if you don't contain him. And so, I wouldn't call he's not dual threat as much as what we saw this last week. But we got to be careful and know where he's at, and we got to do a great job of being able to keep him in the pocket because he's definitely hurt people. And they do some nice design stuff to get him outside of the pocket, on purpose because I think he throws the ball well out there. And I think this running back, the ball hits at all different spots on the field. He's had explosive runs, that pop, from, on the back side of counters, on the front side of counters, front side of zone, back side of zone. And so just us to have gap integrity, to get a lot of hats to the football, I think are going to be important just because he's super explosive.
And you guys shy of 100 yards this past game, one of the lower of the season. And UTSA just faced a Rice team that runs the ball for 60-plus plays a game. How important is it to be able to establish that run early on against the UTSA defense that has been solid against the run this year?
Yeah, I think what they do schematically, it's something that is something that's enforced every day in practice. You can tell that. That's something they want to do is make you one-dimensional and throw the football. And so, I think we were explosive running the football last year. We had some really I thought we had some really long runs, but it's kind of feast or famine last year. We broke some really long, 70-something yarder, 50-something yarder, another 30-something yarder, for touchdowns. But I thought, just the consistency of it and being able to stay on track on first and second down and then staying out of third down and long, I think will be the biggest thing for us. And so hopefully, some of those explosives will come again in the run game like they did last year. But I do think, we had, a lot of inefficient runs at times last year that put us behind the chains and allowed them to dictate kind of some third down stuff that we did. So I think, more importantly than that is just I think the efficiency is going to be key in this one.
Yeah, you talk a little bit about UTSA, and this seems like it's developed into a rivalry game for this program. Do you sense that with your fans and your players that this is a game that falls into that category?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime and just like y'all hit on earlier, I mean, obviously there's a bunch of times in state right now we're recruiting the same guys. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that they're right down the road. And so I think as we're working to build these programs in this conference, I think this will be always an important one. Obviously, it is to our fans and, important for us to go out and perform well on Saturday.
Yeah, and I was listening to Coach Traylor's Monday. He does a Zoom deal on there. He talked a little bit about your guys' relationship and just how it dated back to when you were an Incarnate Word and he came in at UTSA. Is that something that you've kind of had that friendship with him through the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously just I respect the hell out of, everywhere he's been. And you watch, I think my dad's a high school coach as well. And so I think, when you have somebody that has success and you know what they went through to build up a program in East Texas and Gilmore, and then communicated with him. We took one of his quarterbacks at Texas Tech. Talked to him a lot about taking this kid. And then, I think just when we were in San Antonio together, obviously, both having some success at that time and San Antonio gathering around kind of those two programs and being able to win some conference championships at that time. And I think he's just a good human being. I think he cares about kids. He cares about his players. My wife, Maggie, and I have spent time with him and his wife, Carrie. We go to some of these retreats and things and go grab a bite to eat. And so, at the end of the day, I mean, besides this week, I mean, I root for him just because I think he's a good person. He's always been great to me.
Yeah, and you mentioned Sadiq, and I was interested in him this week just because he's kind of really stepped forward for you guys since June went out. Did you really need him to come through here late in the year when you lost June for the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime just when you're struggled a little bit with some of the inside run game that we've struggled against, against Army and then back to this past week with South Florida. He's a guy we've been able to rely on, and not only has he been physical in the middle, but I think just not many assignment busts. I mean, when you ask him to do his job, he's usually doing his job, and that's a sign of a great defensive interior lineman, in my opinion. I mean, they're never going to be in the newspaper, their name in the newspaper of having a ton of stats, all those different things. But I think the consistency level. He's a pleasure to be around, and I just love the way he practices. So he's one of those kids, I think, the more and more you're around him and you kind of watch his personality and then you watch the way he practices, I mean, he's a pleasure to be around and super lucky we have him on this roster right now.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned you having him on this roster. He's not a guy you would typically think, okay, that guy fits at North Texas just from where he comes from.
Yeah, I think you can throw that out the window now. Like nowadays in the portal era, I mean, we got people from all over the damn nation on this. I mean, when I watch the video board pregame, I usually watch up there and they, the player comes on and says where he's starting and where he's from and shoot. I mean, we got Baltimore, Maryland, a couple on there. We got guys from Oklahoma. We got guys from California. We got guys from Kentucky. And so, yeah, I mean, back in the day, I remember, and you think back, obviously I played in Texas and played at Texas Tech. And, it'd be like everybody's Texas. Every once in a while, you'd have a junior college kid that's from a different state. Not very often. And so I think nowadays, just with where this game's evolved and where it's gone, and then kind of our approach to recruiting right now, I mean, I think, they might be internationals here before we know it,
Yeah, I guess that's the point. Is he just one of the guys that you were looking for a specific type of player, and he was a guy that fit your profile when you looked in the portal?
Sometimes, but, had a connection with Sadiq. He came from Louisville, and Coach Cassidy's dad's at Louisville. And so I think, some of these guys that we get, we have personal connections with people, and it might be a weird roundabout way. The coaching fraternity is a pretty small group, and then sometimes, you get a phone call and a guy is vouching for a guy that didn't really have a lot of tape, but, showed a lot of promise behind some really good players at Louisville and thought he'd fit perfectly in kind of what we do. And you get a valid character check when you really trust somebody like that. I mean, and sometimes, when you're recruiting junior college guys, junior college coaches, it's their job to get these guys out. It helps them recruit, right? And so I think you got to dig a little bit deeper in some of that to make sure you cross all your T's and dot all your I's. But yeah, when coach's dad is calling him and saying, I think he's going to steer him in the right direction. So we had good information on Sadiq.
Oh, that's what I was figuring out. And then I was kind of curious about Drew. He threw more picks than he typically does, made a few more mistakes. Did they just get after him, maybe rattle him a little bit, or what did you see when you look back?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, I thought he popped back and did some phenomenal things. So I didn't think it really. Obviously, we can't throw 3 interceptions. I think. The first one was a bad read, and he'd be the first guy to tell you that. The second one, I didn't love our routes on that one. Landon's guy, the guy who intercepted it, should have never been there with the route concept that we had called. And then the third one, I think was my fault. It was a hash play. I called it in the middle of the field. We were a little bit discombobulated when I called it, although he got it set up right. And so I think the last one was, they pressured us, and it was a look that he hadn't gotten. And so really I put that one on me as play caller.
Historically, Historically, after blowout losses, whether it's big crowd or small crowd, it seems the fans and students lose support. It seems the tables have turned, and there's a lot more support for this game. Do you feel like you've kind of gotten this program on the right track of where you want it to be here in year 3?
Yeah, and it can't be understated again just how phenomenal that was. I've gotten received so many, and not only people that were in there in person, and how incredible the atmosphere was there. It's something that Coach Golish talked about to me before the game. Just our student section was awesome, and I think you just don't get that everywhere in this conference when you go on the road, and so I think people start noticing it. And then, I think, just a bunch of text messages from recruits, from my family, of people that watched it on TV that just were shocked about how good it looked on TV. And so I think just naturally as this thing keeps growing, and I've said this since I've been here, like I know we play a huge part in this, and success is the ultimate, winning solves a lot of problems. And I say that all the time, right? And I think this is one of those same problems. But our administration's been phenomenal. I think just the marketing efforts. I think Jared's been phenomenal. Just his fan interaction on Twitter, and I think his accessibility to people is something that's rare. And that's really Jared. That's not him putting on a front and behind a keyboard. That's how Jared operates, and the way he leads every single day. So yeah, I think naturally. I think it continues to get better, and it's always our job to make it fun and to make it continue to grow in the right way. But yeah, I think hats off again just to our alumni, to our fan base, to our student base, who made that such a great atmosphere.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate you.
I'm off kind of the tough loss last week. How have you guys rebounded from that?
Take it next week. You just look ahead. You can't change anything that happens, and you just build off of your mistakes. Really, just take everything day by day.
Yeah, what'd you guys get out of that USF game as you look back on it? Were there things you took from that game that maybe can help you moving forward?
You just got to be prepared. You can lose at any point. You always got to stay on point, and you always got to be hungry, ready to win.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it after the game, but attendance was so great, such great support for you guys. Did that really make an impact for you guys, and do you hope to see that moving forward?
Man, that was probably one of the most biggest or most memorable things for me as being here, because as you know, I transferred in here. I wasn't a guy that came here out of high school, and seeing the people of Denton and seeing the community come out and support us was it was amazing. Like, it made me want to just play harder for the people that I knew that was watching me. Like, people that might even not even know my name or know who I am as a person, but they still came out and took their time out their day to come support us. So it was very, like, loving and, you know what I mean, just it felt a lot. It felt great.
Does that motivate you guys to maybe win the big game to kind of maybe egg more people on to come?
Yeah, it's true. Our goal is always to win games. Like, that's never not been the mindset. But, like, winning games and being able to show people that we're doing it for them and doing it for the team and doing it for the community, man, that's always the goal. Like, to show people, like, hey, we're here to stay. This isn't like a UNT that people always expect or try to write off. Like, we're a great team. We have great coaching staff. We have a great staff that runs everything. Like, we're a great, like, group. Like, here, like, everyone should be and want to come watch us play.
You guys get UTSA this week. What do you see in that team?
UTSA is a great coach team. Like, even last year they came, they played hard. Like, they always play hard. We got to come ready. We got to come with it, and we just got to play to win.
This kind of developed into a rivalry game. I know you're new here, but probably the guys before you have talked a little bit about it, I would think. I mean, do you see this as a big rivalry for this program?
For me personally, as an O-line group, I know we just take it as another game and go as it as another game, and just we want to dominate the trenches and just move the ball up front and score touchdowns.
Yeah, Drew got knocked around a little bit after last game. Did you guys see some things in that game that maybe you can improve on to maybe protect him a little bit better?
After watching every game, there's a lot of stuff that we can improve on, like just watching film and just seeing things that you can do better as a person and as a player. So it's always things to fix after every game.
Yeah, I'm working on a story on Sadiq, who you've probably gotten to know and played against in practice. He's really stepped forward once you guys lost June. How much has he helped you guys, and what's he been like to play with?
Man, Sadiq's always been a great player. Like, him transferring in here, battling out with him in the fall, you just know, like, you'll see flashes of him always being great, and then he got his opportunity, he made the best of it. That's all I can say.
What's he been like to play with as a guy?
Sadiq says, that's my brother. Like, even though he's on the defensive side of the ball, but that's like a dude I always kick it with. We hang out outside of football. Like, he's just a good human being.
Yeah, so what's he like as a person? He kind of quiet guy, chill guy?
Sadiq, he be joking. Like, he a jokester. He looks like me. Like, we like to joke, kick it, talk. Like, I ain't going to say he over-talkative, but Sadiq do like to, run his mouth a little bit.
All right, cool. Thanks, Shai.
Word. Thank you.
Hang on.
Hey.
Hang on.
We're going to the next guy.
My fault, cousin.
Johnny, following that Friday game, what was the process, for the locker room to kind of recover over the weekend and so, look at that film and all that, bounce back for this week?
Really, it's just take it, see what mistakes we did, see like where we messed up on, and just try to improve on it. Just always try to be better than the person you was yesterday, really.
And then evaluating that South Florida defense, is that pretty much one of the best defenses that you've played this year so far?
I'll give my hats off to them. That was a very coached team. Every team that's came in here has been very coached and very well, but those dudes played very hard up front. Hell yeah.
How do you kind of clean up those communication errors or whatever was happening in that second half compared to the first?
Really, everyone has to be on the same page. As an offense, if we're not all on the same page, then one person mess up, the whole thing can mess up. So as just a whole in offense, we just got to communicate and just all be on the same page.
Wyatt Young had a rushing touchdown in that very unusual formation. How did you guys kind of create success out of a play like that, especially on a big down in the red zone?
As just an offensive lineman, I ain't going to act like I know too much of the formations, but I trust in Coach Morris, Coach Davis, Coach Brophy, all the coaches. Like, I trust in all the coaches, for the offensive coaching staffs to put us in the right positions to make plays.
Speaking of the run game, North Texas struggled a little bit this past week. You're going up against the UTSA team that just played a very run-heavy Rice team. They're very solid against the run game. What have you guys kind of seen out of them, and how do you expect to establish that run like you have the rest of before this season?
We taking it just like we took every game. Like, before a game, we've been rushing the ball, running the ball very well. That's still our mentality, is to establish the run first. So going into this game, we're going to run the ball. We're going to put the ball on the ground, and we're going to move it.
You guys come off a little bit of the tough loss last week. How have you guys rebounded from that?
Just staying poised and sticking to our team values, going in and, restarting and trying to go 1-0 this week, really.
Yeah, what happened defensively in that game as you guys look back on?
I feel like there was a lot of communication errors. I know on the first drive, within like the first 14 plays, we had 9 busts. Most of them being communication. I feel like as the game got on, we got better at some of those things, but working on those communication errors and as them going fast, they have an off our pace for most of the part. So I'll say getting our communication and getting back to the little details.
Was that a bit of a shock after you guys were giving up 20 points a game to go out there and have them be able to run it up like that?
Yeah, we weren't. We definitely weren't expecting them to score that much. Honestly, especially having them have that pace that they were going at. But we just thought throughout the game, as long as we just continued one drive at a time and get a stop, then we thought it would be all right.
That's such a great turnout for that game. What was the feeling like to be out there in front of a sellout crowd? And is that the hope for going forward, that you can have that kind of atmosphere again?
Yeah, it was an amazing feeling, honestly, having the whole crowd in the atmosphere. That brings a lot of energy and juice to all of us, and we definitely feel it. So knowing that and having everybody being out there, I feel like that's definitely got to be the standard now.
Yeah, and you guys get UTSA this week. What do you see in that team?
We see a great UTSA team, knowing them and us having our rivalry and history playing them. I know last year we lost against them, and I know that we want to get our revenge against. But we're preparing this week, and we feel like we're pretty confident in our game plan.
What is it that it stands out about that team?
I know offensively, even though they don't show it, what's it called? They're not ranking. They're winning losses, but their offense is very explosive. I know there's running backs. They real patient and probably some of the best running backs we've seen so far coming in.
Yeah, you mentioned the rivalry aspect of this game. Do you get that sense, even though you haven't been here your whole career, that this is an important game for this program?
Yeah, I feel like it's every game that's coming up is a big game, but knowing that the history and the rivalry, we definitely feel some type of way coming into this game about them. So we definitely want to come in and win. This is definitely a big one for us.
Yeah, we're going to have a story on Sadiq, who has really stepped up for you guys. It seems like since June went out. How important has he been to your guys' success here this year?
I feel like he's always been I'm sorry to cut you off. I feel like he's always been a big, important piece, role player on the team. Even though he wasn't starting at the time when June was going with us and healthy, I feel like his personality, even though he doesn't show it like he looks, but he's a very fun and goofy guy, and he helps motivate everybody and definitely bring the juice.
Yeah, you guys gave up about 300 yards rushing last week. Is there something you guys can do to improve as you head into a game against UTSA, which had a guy that was leading the nation in rushing not too long ago?
Yes, sir. We feel like I said earlier, getting onto our details, we feel like some of the stuff that we were messing up in last week, like getting into the gap and then coming out, some of the small stuff like that, we just got to home in and get back right and fix that, and I feel like we'll be good on that.
Yeah, I was working on a story on your guys' 2 transfer cornerbacks from Sam Houston. What have those guys brought to this team?
I feel like they brought a lot of energy and also like brotherhood. I feel like them two having their brotherhood also made everybody else like home into that and get more closer. So I feel like that brought a huge thing to the defense and also to the team.
Shane, after that loss against South Florida, what were the kind of 1 or 2 messages that really stuck with you in terms of coming back to the values that you mentioned?
I feel like knowing how good of a team we are, we know that we didn't play our best ball on all three sides of football, and we know that we're still a good team. And once we put everything together, then we know that we can compete with anybody.
Even against a very solid South Florida offense, you guys forced 3 turnovers. You guys continue to force turnovers, 15 on the year. What kind of has led to that success? Is it just been the experience, or is there just sharpening the skills?
I feel like the experience, and also I feel like that so far this year that we've been able to start fast as a defense. I feel like most of our turnovers has come early in the game, and be able to continue to stay on the offense and to play fast and to get on them early, continue to allow us to do that.
And I know you've talked about the crowd, but you had a fumble recovery. What was that like in that first quarter, just hearing those fans? You've never seen that before at North Texas, so what was that like?
It was a great feeling, especially hearing everywhere and seeing all the atmosphere, everybody, especially it being blacked out. It was a great feeling. And then not being able to run to the end zone, though, I know we've been getting in trouble on that. So we had to sneak away, try to go do it. But it was still a great feeling seeing everybody do that. And like I said earlier, I feel like that should be the new standard.